Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Reaoch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the business connection, a podcast about business in Brazil and the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, an American living in Brazil for many years and known as the king of networking, connecting people, and talking from my podcast studio in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. Today's guest is Hoonie Lim, and she's joining us today from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Hoonie Lim, better known as GreenieHoonie, is a nature lover, green influencer, real estate specialist in Southeast Asia, EcoVillage Creator, Techie, Wavemaker, dreamer, and chairwoman of the board at Aquamarine Investments in Cambodia, which was formed to create and manage the EcoVillage Sunflower Village. So with that, Hoonie, hello and welcome to Talk to Brazil, the business connection.
Hello.
Hoonie, I want to let everybody know that we met actually through Tamar Hila and Julian Sicard. They were both mutual connections on LinkedIn. And then last week I had an interesting and highly informative chat with you, Hoonie, in preparation for today's podcast. So, Hoonie, tell us about Cambodia and why it is a great opportunity for investment and business development.
Right. So I came to Cambodia in December, right, because of real estate. So when I came here, I saw the opportunities here, right, like because there is a gap, a very big gap in many areas. So it's not just about selling real estate, but even, things like going green, waste management, clean energy, education. There's a lot of opportunities here. So I knew that, hey, this is the place to be in this year. And it's not just in real estate investments. There's a lot of things that you can do here as long as you're creative. So because I'm also in the training space, my dream is actually to open green schools. So Cambodia is like a really green place so far. It's not contaminated by chemicals and all sorts of pesticides and all that. So and most people know me as GreenieHoonie. So I'm really into eco businesses and all that. So I see that space like, hey, Cambodia is the right place to influence the world to really go green. Because it's not contaminated yet, right? So if you want to do organic food, here it's nice to be here because the land is still clean.
Right.
It's not adulterated yet. So yeah, I see so many things to do here, and I knew that I'll be here for a long time this year.
Last week, I also interviewed a Brazilian who actually lives in Singapore, Lucas Santos. And during our conversation, Lucas, and I told him I would be talking to you about Cambodia because Lucas mentioned to me that he actually had taken a vacation to Cambodia. And he said that Cambodia was one of the most beautiful places he had ever seen in his life. And, and he said it was so green and so beautiful. Was it really that way?
Oh, yes, it is. I have been to the islands. Because I now have Cambodian brothers, and sisters, and not just it's so nice. The people here are friendly. They are so open to information, and because I'm blessed to be from Singapore, right?
Right.
So
actually, well, for our audience, you are a foreigner in Cambodia. You're not Cambodian. You're Singaporean. You're a foreigner.
Yes, and I chose to be happily stuck here as well because I was supposed to go back to Singapore for my EcoVillage project, which is in Malaysia and Indonesia. And then that was in March. And then when they announced the stay-home notice in Singapore, I'm like, okay, I'm not going back. I'm just going to stay here, happily stuck in Cambodia by choice. And yeah, since February, I've been here. And that means that's about almost 6 months.
Right?
6 months already. And I'm totally enjoying myself here.
Well, one of the things I've been talking about on many of my podcasts is exactly that, remote working today. And it's not today. Remote working existed long, long ago. And it just became highlighted more now. But if we're a business person and we have connectivity, if we can establish a contact through a Wi-Fi, through internet, we're in business, right?
Yeah, you can work from anywhere. You can work from the beach. But I actually done it like 7 years ago when I was marketing Philippine properties.
Right.
So, as long as you have internet connection, you have your computer, you are connected to the world, which means you can work anywhere. And there's a lot of digital nomads nowadays.
Right.
It's nothing new. It's just that people are not aware of this concept.
Right.
And I've been talking about Internet Revolution 4.0, decentralization and all that for a while. And people think that I'm crazy, like, hey, what are you talking about? But that's the future that we are looking at, but people just refuse to see it. And that was when COVID struck. I'm like, yes, this is the best thing that's happening, because people now realize that, hey, we shouldn't be flying so much. We should, Earth needs to rest, right? Because I've been talking about my main topic was actually more on going green, where I've been saying like nature is our best teacher, nature is our best healer. And most people always ask me like, oh, do you think you can save the Earth? I'm like, sorry, I think Earth doesn't need us saving, because when Earth gets really pissed off, it's us that needs saving, right? So when all that happened, I'm like, okay, I also made this statement, which some people are not very happy with me about, because I said the only way to go eco-friendly is to cull humans, because there's too many humans on this earth. So people are like, in the beginning, I would say that is shocking. But when we first chatted the other day, when I first met you through LinkedIn connections, but in our chat, when I said, where are you from? I didn't realize you were from Singapore at that time. Where are you from? Mm-hmm. And for our listeners, Hoonie said, I'm from Earth. And one of the first persons that I had met, actually the first person that I had ever met, to define where they're from, she just said Earth. And I think that's true. And what you said of saving Earth, you're really trying to save your home, which is our home. And we tend to realize, or we think, that we are just part of a very small slice of the Earth, and that our home is just a little piece of something. But I agree with you. I think it's not that we have too many people. I think we need, and what you're saying, people need to learn more, have to have a better understanding of how they interact, because it could be better. The world, I think, could handle 8 billion people, because I hate to say that I should be here and somebody else shouldn't. But I think if we all learn together, now the world could be, it could help sustain everybody if people do it correctly. What do you think? Well, I think it's more on like respecting Earth, because when you look at a lot of businesses, they actually just take, they just take and take and take. They're not thinking about the rest of the world. So if you're really if you really start like talking about going green, there's things like, there's, what do you call that? Something of the commons, concepts like this, because when Earth has a certain amount of resources, but usually the rich will start taking more, and then they take advantage of the poor. So then that inequality between the rich and the poor gets wider and wider. So there's a lot of concepts like this which people don't really see it. But if you look at, you're a citizen of Earth, and if you're looking at from the big picture, then you get it. But if you look at it from a business perspective, you will I would just want to take whatever I can because I want to earn the most money. Then that whole selfish mentality comes in, which is sad. It's a sad degradation of our humankind, I feel, because, seriously, most people are just, greedy, and they don't care about other people. So yeah, that's the sad reality of our human race now, I feel.
Now, part of your challenge in Cambodia now, and you've just started, you've set up a company to start an EcoVillage, right?
Yeah.
And your EcoVillage is called Sunflower Village. And to start that, just to be fair, you need money. You need somebody to take money out of their pocket and understand what you're trying to do and not give you the money, but invest that money, thinking that the return on that money will not only make them a profit, but hopefully will help you in your dream make for a more sustainable world, but for a more sustainable piece of Cambodia. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fair because that's the whole world's mindset, because the driving force of any business is, money, right? And I mean, I am a business person. So when I talk about sustainable business, when I mention this word sustainable business, to business owners, it's always about dollars and cents, right? They don't care about environment. They don't care about the people, the locals. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you talk to NGOs and charities, they're all for the environment and for the cause, but they don't think about their dollars and cents, which is not sustainable as well. So my point is more on educating people to how do we find that in between where you are earning money, but of course you are caring about the environment and the society as well, because now there's a lot of companies that they're talking about their CSR program and all that, which is part of social responsibility, right? So why not incorporate all that into the business model instead of taking it as a separate thing? It should be part of the business. It's not a separate part of the business.
Well, I think some companies are going that way, and I know and I feel that some investors are that way. But how do you attract those people? What do you plan to do? Because what you mentioned, you're in Cambodia. The Sunflower Village, as you mentioned before, it's a piece of land from people that you know that you want to develop. So how are you going to develop that? How is that going to happen?
Well, so I have been talking about it, and I have been talking on social media, in talks, because I'm also in Mother Earth Toastmasters Club in Singapore, and most people know me as GreenieHoonie. So I have been very vocal in talking about going green. And because I have this like crazy dream of my eco village, and then that's even how I got my land. Like I met this friend of mine, Samrit, and he actually is in his business is mainly in taxation. So I was actually linking up with people that are in Cambodia who can help me to connect. I'm not just selling real estate, but I see the potential of bringing any business who wants to expand into Cambodia to Cambodia.
But do you feel that Cambodians, do the Cambodian people want to preserve their beautiful country?
Oh yes, there is a lot that when I talk about going green, they even when I talk about the green school, that was 2 years ago, to one of the Cambodian businessmen that I met in Korea. He was, when I mentioned the green school, they say, "Oh, come build it here. I will give you the land to do it." So the whole idea of going green and preserving the land, it is there. There are a lot of business people who are in that direction. But of course, there is the other extreme of people who just want to, take land and all that. So, I mean, Cambodia is called the land of wonders for many reasons.
Land of wonders?
Yeah.
But is it so beautiful as everybody says?
Well, it is beautiful, but if you want to do business here, you have to learn how to navigate, because it's really the land of wonders.
Well, you've been around. In our chat, you mentioned you've been in many parts of the world. So I don't think you need to understand local business anywhere. You're talking Singapore. You just mentioned Korea. You told me before the States, Mexico. I'm here in Brazil. I've spoken to people throughout the world. It comes to the same thing. You need to understand local customs and cultures.
Definitely. So if you understand Cambodia a little bit more, there is still corruption. So you need to know like who are the right people to partner with.
Right.
Yeah. So I've heard about people coming here and then they talk to people in the government and all that, and then suddenly the deal didn't go through because they don't know how to navigate it. Some people in the government are still taking, lining their pockets.
Right.
So you need to know the right people to connect with. And it's really like a land of wonders.
Well, I think that's part of relationship building, and the trust building is that. And Brazil in that nature, which you just mentioned, is similar. Many persons come to Brazil, it's a beautiful country, a lot of opportunities. But historically, we've had a lot of significant and very deep corruption, which was basically been on the headlines for the last several years. Some of that being cleaned up, but it's very difficult to eliminate it. And that seemed to be anywhere in the world, all right? So corruption is not something, I think that, as you mentioned, corruption seems to be something that's part of mankind and humankind. I don't want to say womankind, but it seems to be more mankind than anything else. There seem to be more men involved in corruption than women. But humankind, I think it is what you just said. We have to find ways to develop. We as an investor, you as a business person, need to develop mechanisms for trust to be able to start what you're trying to do. And then offer that to somebody else, because you are somebody's eyes and ears and soul in Cambodia.
Yeah. So for the last 6 months, I have been networking a lot. So, and I talk very openly, about trust and integrity. It's important in business and all that. So it's just like attract likes, right? So law of attraction. So when I speak very vocally about things like this, like finding the right business partner is important because I'm looking long term. So eventually those so-called more unethical businessmen will shy away from me because they know that if they start being unethical, I'm going to talk about it openly and I will like just say it in their face. So they will avoid me, right? So that's kind of like my natural way of filtering, unethical business people to.
Well, that's your keyword, Wavemaker, right? So, there's nothing calm. There's nothing calm about Hoonie.
Yeah, so I'm just a very different kind of business person that the world is seeing now, probably. Because for me, it's like personal life and work life shouldn't be taken as separate. But in the world, that's what people do. They take their personal life and work life as separate, and they don't treat it like, the same. And they behave differently in both worlds. But to me, it's like, hey, if you are, if you can be unfaithful to your wife or lover or partner in real life, in your personal life, what makes you not be unfaithful to your business partner and talk behind the business partner's back?
Right.
So to me, it's just like, how can you be like two different person in two different situations? That's so hypocritical.
Now, Hoonie. So
it's a very different way of looking at
business. No, it is. But how have you been able to manage that? Because obviously you have been a remote working person and you have been a virtual networker for a long time. Because we actually connected many, many months ago, which led us to come to make this podcast. But how did you develop your virtual networking capability? And how do you find that right now in the middle of this pandemic situation? Are you able to continue your networking?
Oh yes, it's actually better. So in Singapore, I was like really networking a lot, like all the networking events, different groups, I'll be there. So much so that my friends were like, I went to another event and then people there know me, and then my friend was like, "Hey, Hoonie, who don't you know?" It's like, well, I mean, there's still a lot of people I don't know. There's some people that do know me from different networks because Singapore is small, right?
Right.
And then when I came here, because I had an ex-business partner, but of course, because of ethics-wise, he decided not to work with me. So, it's like, okay, I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, those with questionable ethics will just shy away from me eventually because toxic people will just, go, right? So,
right.
So I am also connected to WeChat, right? Because of the international connections that I have through his, he was based in China. He's American based in China. So I had to use WeChat. And then from there, I got into a few international networks in China as well.
Well, we actually met with Tamara and Julian. That's a LinkedIn group in Shanghai, and that's how we first met.
Yeah, so it was actually my ex-business partner who actually connected me into that group.
No, but that's the way business goes. It's one connection leads to another connection. Global connection, global networking expands that way.
Yeah, and because I'm also very vocal in the different chat groups, people will reach out to me and connect. Which
I did.
So being vocal, talking about what you're doing, that's something that you have to do. And it's funny because some of these people were saying that I'm proud because I keep talking about myself. But I mean, like, hey, that's networking, right? If you're networking and you don't talk about yourself, then what do you talk about? it's just like, I don't know what's wrong with humans nowadays. They're so weird.
No, and in our times chatting, you don't only talk about yourself. You've talked very much about nature. You've talked about being a green influencer. You've talked about your drive in the eco villages and eco concerns. That's throughout the world. And if you don't talk about it, if you don't bring that up, and even more today, and I'm a certain believer of voice searches. If you don't say it and it isn't picked up by artificial intelligence, people don't find out. And so I don't think being quiet anymore is the answer. And that's worldwide. I'm not talking that specifically about you. Many people have a position throughout the world. Brazil's the same. But some people are too vocal. Some people are not vocal enough. Some people don't really defend what they believe in, and they sort of take a middle of the road. But to make change, and what I understand what you want to do, what you are doing, is to make change, and you want to make change for the better. And you're a nature lover. There's nothing absolutely wrong with that. You're a green influencer. Nothing wrong with that. And you're a dreamer. And I think many of the people that I've interviewed here from different parts of the world, different types of persons, one of the things that sort of binds all of them together, and you're included in that, they've all had a dream of one sort of another. Mm-hmm. That dream could have been more personal. That dream could have been more professional. But they've had a dream. And you write that very clearly in your LinkedIn profile announcement. You're a dreamer. And I don't think that's wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. On the contrary, I think that's something very positive, because that dreams come true.
Yeah, it's just making your dreams come true. But when I dream so big, like really, really big, people get jealous of me. I don't know. There's people talking bad about me, trying to put me down, saying that, I'm talking big. I'm like, what's wrong with that? I don't know. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. Now, for your village, for your sunflower village, what will that be? What is the Eco Village, the sunflower village in Cambodia? What's your dream there?
Okay, so it's based in EcoVillage, where it'll be based on permaculture, right? So permaculture is like permanent agriculture. So that's the sustainable way of farming. And that also actually heals the soil. It heals our land. So it's quite a new concept to many, but actually it's a very old way of doing things, of how nature is, right? And then, of course, we will have the education part where, we can teach people like how to do composting, how do you eat healthy, even things like mindfulness in nature, or even like when we get the locals to do, we can get them to teach like basket weaving or crafts or things like that.
Right.
Okay, and then the next part will be the eco resorts. Okay, where I can have people to come and experience the place. They can come like for camping, and then we have the mid-range where it's a little bit more comfort, where families can come and hang out over the weekend.
Right.
And then the super luxury one where it probably cost you like $500 a night, but it will be like a romantic, like super romantic night out in a very nice, green environment. So it's kind of a concept of these 3 factors, and all in that space of 6 hectares, which I have to play with now. It's just how you kind of plan it, and the things that you put into it of value.
Right.
It's about selling value. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of connections with resources and to make this happen, and it's also basically a mini showcase of all the other eco businesses that are wanting me to expand here. So it will be like how all these green businesses products can be applied
right
in an eco place.
No, and I think that's important because even Cambodia as a country, and I'm talking from a perspective here in Brazil and in South America, it really doesn't show up as a point of interest. Most people, when you're talking from here in Brazil, you're talking about Southeast Asia. They may not think about Cambodia as a country, as a target for investment, as an opportunity. So that's why I think it's interesting what you're doing. You are also helping to show what the opportunity, and there are opportunities in the whole world. Sometimes, and even Brazil has that. Brazil's such a big country with so many different opportunities, but many people outside, many of the people that I interview know absolutely nothing about Brazil. And so there are processes, and along the eco-friendly line, the perma-agriculture line you said, there are a lot of concepts that can go hand in hand. So there's a learning process on both sides. A lot of development has to be a process, like you're saying. Yes.
So it's just like if you want to change, you want to change something, change the system. You need to raise awareness first, because if there's no awareness, then there won't be any change.
Right.
So that's why the education part have to come in.
And you need to keep talking about it.
I keep talking about it, but at the same time, I get flamed a lot for talking about it.
Well, what you're doing is what you're doing. You've created a company. You're out structuring that. Forget the complainers. Highlight the positive.
I don't care. As long as I know what I'm doing, because there's a lot of people who talk, but they don't do. They don't walk the talk.
So we have to just do something, right? Just do it.
Yeah, so I just don't. There's too many talkers. They want to go green. They are saying eco because like eco is like the best marketing buzzword now. I see so many companies using the word eco, but if you look at their business practice, they're not even eco at all. It's the greatest marketing buzzword to use now because everybody wants to go eco.
But you are eco.
Well, look at how I live. My waste. I'm not totally zero waste, but my minimal waste.
Right.
I'm a minimalist. I do like buy secondhand clothes. I do clothes swaps. You don't have to have a lot of things in your life.
No.
Right? It's more about the experience, the company that you have, the people that you meet, the friendships that you form. These are more, important to me. So I don't need a big house. I don't need like luxury and all that. Eventually I would see myself living in a mini house or a houseboat of sorts and live my digital nomad life. So I'm just like working hard on my passive income.
You'll be everywhere.
Disappear some island or something. No, you won't be able to find me.
Well,
you can't find me.
Keep dreaming, Hoonie. Well, Hoonie, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your really positive outlook on life and the world, and doing for what you're doing. Okay, so thank you again. It was a pleasure meeting you and a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Tom.
And I'd like to thank you, too, for sharing your time with our listeners. And our listeners can find more about Hoonie Lim. And her name is HoonieLim. And you'll find her on LinkedIn. You can also visit our website, talktobrazil.com, and find more information about Hoonie Lim. Also, all previous shows of Talk to Brazil are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and many others. I'd like to thank our audience and our sponsor, Focus MI Market Intelligence. Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their site, which is www.focusmi.com. That's focusmi.com. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Tom Reaoch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.